2, 3, 4. Yeah, when you're feeling down and motivated in the midweek, we got the guys here to make your life complete. Little John, Brandon, Cody, Carly, they're coming in to keep you motivated all week. New episode, same time every week. Don't gotta wait long for the next one to release. So don't go away, sit down, take a seat, enjoy Midweek Motivation with John and Carly. Hey.
Midweek Motivation.
Let's go.
What is up, Midweek Motivation? Let's go.
What up?
Welcome to another week of Midweek Motivation, real conversations with real people about a very real God. And I'm just going to say it up front. We are tired.
Yes.
We are tired today. And we are in the hottest possible part of the building.
Cooking.
We are roasting. I think
That's why I got my hat on, because if not, it'd be a disco ball in here.
You see, just sweating down into your eyes and everything. Yeah,
It'd be something.
That's all right. That is what it is.
Yeah.
But yes, we are tired, but we wanted to make sure we were here for you today. We're hopefully you're well rested, awake, ready for some motivation today.
And we're hoping you guys motivate us.
You know what? That's a great reason to do the show. It is actually it's a lot easier to wake up and be motivated when you have to try to be motivating to other people.
Talking about being hot, our amazing HVAC guys calling me right now.
Right?
Let's put them on the show. I'm just kidding.
Man, shout out to ACI.
Yeah.
Some of the best around.
Daniel Shefferdini.
He is,
I think is how you say it.
The best. The best. You know what? And he's so good. He'll come to church here. And there was one Sunday, I saw him on his phone during church one day. And my first thought was, man, what is he texting during church, right? Because that's my first thought when everybody's holding their phone, right?
Yeah.
My man is so committed to his job and his church, right?
And his wife.
Right?
Who was fanning at the time.
My man was adjusting the temperature from his phone on a Sunday, right? And I think we've called him on a couple of Sundays.
Yeah. Well, the thing,
hey man, something's not working.
The thing I like about Daniel, this is not going to be the Daniel show. Maybe I should tell him to tune in. The thing I like about Daniel is one of the things he said, and I think a lot of our people have this same mentality. He said, "Listen, this is my church.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take care of it."
Yep.
And I it's my hope and prayer that that's everybody's mentality.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, clearly it's God's church. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I wish that everybody would have
Mm-hmm.
that mentality. Like this is my church.
Yeah.
Walking through the parking lot, you see a piece of trash. This is my church.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
I just love that mentality, and I'd say most, if not all, of our people have that attitude.
I think we see that a lot, and at least on our team in the tech world.
Yeah.
I mean, our tech and our worship team. We've been a lot of places, but I mean, our tech and our worship teams are probably some of the most committed and bought in volunteers that I've ever seen, and I saw it a lot this past week. So this past week we had district conference for all the Wesleyan churches across Virginia and West Virginia. It's about 75 churches, something like that.
Yeah.
So they came, and we got to all meet here at Parkway. We get to host it every single year. And our team stepped up. We sent out the invitations like a month ago and said, hey, we need people. Our team stepped up. A lot of people fill in positions they didn't normally fill.
Yeah.
Learning new skills. My favorite middle school pastor, Mr. Austin Odell, ran a camera for us.
On the camera.
Killed it.
Man.
We had one of our middle schoolers helping to run lyrics on Sunday night. I'll tell you what, Sunday night was a different kind of a day.
Yeah.
And
it was pretty awesome, man.
It's out there. You can go find it.
ParkwayRoanoke.com/power. ParkwayRoanoke.com/power.
Yeah. Go watch that. If nothing else, you need to watch Pastor's message.
Oh my goodness.
That man was in his element. He was in his bag, as the kids say.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
I've heard cool. I have heard a lot of great messages from our pastor. That was probably his best.
Yeah, I think it was the best I've seen in all the years I've been listening to him.
Yeah, it was unreal, and the response from the people in our district, it just, man, it was so good.
And
so good. Whoa, easy, choking on air.
It really got to me. It got me all choked up. It was real, probably the most applicable message, right, to the crowd that was here, right? So it's a Sunday night at district conference is like, it's all the pastors, and it's all your deeply bought in and deeply committed church folks, right? Like these are your board members, like all your key volunteers. These are the people that make the church run. And I mean, he hit us.
Yes.
And he didn't shy away from hitting us, but I think it was a good hit.
Yeah.
But it was with love.
So kind of funny story about this. And you got to go watch it. And I don't want to spoil it. He was kind of telling me how he was going to close the service. And most time, pastor, when you ask him how he's going to close it, like he gives you all the details. Mm-hmm. He didn't do that this time.
Nope.
It was like, I'm going to sing this song, and I'm going to have people stand up, and then at the end, I'm going to hit them with, take a bite out of that. And I'm like,
I don't know what that means.
Okay, pastor. Like he said, I'm going to slap my hand on the Bible, and I'm just going to tell him, take a bite out of that. And I'm like, oh, I trust you, pastor. Yeah. I'm not sure where you're going with this. But, man, the setup and the illustration that he used, man, it was just it was so good. And then, of course, we ended it by playing the Notre Dame Victory March, which it doesn't get any better than that.
I want to know how he settled on Notre Dame Victory March.
He said it, and I agreed as quick as I could. And I was like, yes, we'll use that.
Actually a Notre Dame fan? I know he's from Indiana.
I mean,
I was thinking he's an IU fan.
No, don't say that.
That's really what I thought.
No, we're going Notre Dame.
We're just going to believe that.
Yes, I'm claiming it.
Hey, it wasn't Ohio State. That's all that matters.
Personally,
God. Hail to the victors would have been a better move, but that's okay.
I don't hate that song.
Just hate Michigan.
Right.
Hey, we can still be friends, even though you're wrong. That's okay. But hey, if you were not,
we'll see if they redo that rivalry. We'll see. Which I'm hearing rumors that they are
much of a rivalry in the past couple of years.
I'm hearing that they're going to renew that. Which if they do, we're going.
Hey, fine with me.
Yeah, man, we're going to go, and it's going to be awesome.
That works. I've never actually been to the Big House, so
yeah, I want to go to the Big House, and I want to go and see Touchdown Jesus. Darren choked on some of that raw steak.
That's it, Cody. We miss you
again. You got to go watch that.
We definitely miss Cody.
Go watch that. I'm about to say movie. Go watch that sermon. ParkwayRoanoke.com/power. It's everything that everyone needed in that service.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was. I think the end was such a good encouragement to really the basics of it is go out and share your faith, right? Are you really a fisherman if you don't catch any fish?
Yeah.
Right? Are you a true believer, a follower of Jesus if you're not sharing your faith, right?
Yep.
And man, I tell you what, it doesn't matter who you are in that room, doesn't matter how long you follow Jesus. Everybody in that room needed that message.
Yeah. Yep. It was a game changer in my opinion. Yep. Hey, Courtney. Hey, Cody. Hey, John. I think I saw Judy jump on. If you're on, let us know in the chat. If you're on the app, put in the chat. I'll jump back over there, but that chat was boring.
One more thing about Sunday night. Go watch it, and then somebody count for me the number of times Pastor said the word booze or boozer. That was
Are we boozing or not?
Boozing, boozer. And then I think probably my favorite line
boozing, boozer
was when he was talking about whether or not we're gonna have a general conference vote one day of whether it's it's less filling or tastes great. And if you don't get that,
the place erupted in that moment. It like he had them eating out of the palm of his hand. It was
John Brunk,
great.
I agree. As long as we all hate Ohio State, that's all that matters. Thank you, John. I knew there's a reason I like John Brunk. As long as we all hate on Ohio State, that's fine. Which I don't think we need to even talk about them. They're not even in contention for anything anymore, and that's okay. Anyways, if you're not already a part of our group and you want to be a part of it and get a little bit of motivation, or if you feel the need to motivate us, you can text the word motivate to 540-900-3838. We'd love to have you in that group. Yeah, Courtney, we are friends. So just for clarification, my wife is from Ohio, which sort of.
Bless her
She's
heart.
actually born in Kentucky, which is, and she's not one of these ridiculous Ohio State fans. And you know who you are, ridiculous Ohio State fans, right? They're about the worst.
Don't worry, our viewership did not go down at all.
No, exactly.
Why would they be watching this?
They wouldn't watch that.
Right.
My whole family, or my wife's whole family is Ohio State fans, and except for her grandfather, who grew up in Ohio and is somehow a Michigan fan. So there's one wise one among them.
Yeah.
Courtney, we're still friends. It's okay.
Yeah. Hey, Brian, good to have you on, man. I'm assuming maybe you're watching from New York. Maybe you're in Roanoke this week. I don't know. But always good to have you on. And look, Daniel just texted me and said, hey, call me when you get a chance, please. I was like, we're actually on our Midweek Motivation podcast right now talking about you. His response was, I think he said, awesome.
Awesome.
Yep, that's what he said. He said, awesome.
Well, we should put him on sometime. He'd love that.
It'd be fun.
Yeah.
It'd be fun.
But a couple things coming up I want you to know about. So we had our new friends party last week. That was a good time.
Yeah, it was
Cooking
hot,
Mamas.
but it was good.
It was hot, but Cooking Mamas had the food good.
Yeah.
I got a hot dog, put some chili on it,
Yeah.
some cheese.
Them beans, man.
I was going down the line.
Sean Stewart, if you are watching, I love you, dude. But those beans we had, like, it's tit for tat. Like I
don't know.
I want a competition. Like I want them side by side, a plate full of both of them. But them beans, man.
Sean's beans still win for me, but they're both good.
Yeah, and like, I just need an excuse to eat some more of Sean's beans. So can you just please stop?
That's true. Next week, live on Midweek Motivation.
Sean Stewart will be
We're
here.
gonna have a bean cook-off. That's what we need to do sometime.
Yeah.
We need to have some barbecue. I was gonna say bake off. That's not right. You don't
Bake
bake
off.
barbecue. Please don't bake your barbecue, ladies and gentlemen. That just seems
that's
wrong.
not barbecue.
That is not barbecue. But yeah, last week, new friends party was great. Got to meet some new friends. Some new friends that hopefully we're going to feature here in the coming weeks on Midweek Motivation.
Yes.
A little tease for you there.
Yes.
Hopefully that comes together. I bet it
man.
will.
It's got to.
And we're not going to ruin the story yet, but
No.
that is a story that's going to be a good one, right?
It's a true God story that you just can't make up.
Yeah.
It's wild. Hey, Brian's in Roanoke. Awesome, man.
That's one of the stories I'm looking forward to. But so this Sunday.
I just read Cody's comment. Dustin claims to be a big time fisherman. Ain't never seen him fish.
What'd you see? I was laughing at the other one.
So he's a boater.
He's a boater. I was laughing at the other one. Ohio State's
Yes.
mascot is a toxic nut.
Yes.
How dumb.
1,000%.
Cody, I couldn't agree more. Anyways, sorry. I don't know.
Back on
Took us
topic.
too far.
Back on topic.
It's Pastor's fault for playing the Notre Dame Victory March.
No,
That's
it's
what
not.
it is.
No, it's
That's what we're going with.
That was a huge success.
This Sunday starts Equip. This is our summer Equip.
Yes.
If you don't know much about Parkway and you want to learn more about who we are, what we're about, kind of what we believe, kind of what makes us tick, and what kind of our vision, our goals are, that's a great time to learn that.
Yeah, and I love the news.
It's only one. That's pretty
right. Discover your God, discover your church, discover your people, discover your purpose.
I think you got them out of order.
It's
feel like
purpose
purpose
then people. Yes.
Purpose people.
Yeah.
People's last. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not just about our church.
Yeah.
It is that we talk about our church a bit, but honestly, it's more about you. And again, discovering who God is.
Yeah.
Discovering who our church is. And a little bit of history and kind of what we stand for. But then a big portion of it is discovering your purpose and discovering your people.
Yeah.
So I definitely encourage you. I mean, even if you took it before, it's different. A lot of the teaching is different than what it used to be. So check it out. I think you would enjoy it.
The other cool thing too is one, I think the way it's set up is it doesn't matter where you are in your journey in faith, right? It doesn't matter if you've been in church your whole life or if you're a brand new believer and been in church once. Like, it's the cookies are on the bottom shelf, right?
I love it.
And there's usually cookies.
Yeah,
Like,
there's
going to be something.
There's something to eat now. So
Right.
Cassidy does a great job with that. Yeah. Brother Glenn does a great job with that. So
the other cool thing is you get to meet pretty much the entire staff.
Yeah, we try to have our staff pop in there, whether they're teaching or not. We have some of our dream teamers pop in there and talk about what it's like to serve and be on the dream team here. So it's a great experience.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good time. So if you have never signed up for Equip, you can go to parkroanoke.com/equip, and you can sign up there. It starts this Sunday, even if you can't make it this first week.
9 a.m., right?
9 a.m.
Yeah, 9 a.m.
9 a.m. in
Overlook.
the Overlook room. Even if you can't make it this Sunday, jump in the next week.
Yeah.
We'd try not to get you in too late because you don't want to miss too much. But that first week, Dustin starts off with Discover Your God, and he comes like out of the gate.
He just unloads. Normally we have an online option of that, but because it's on Sunday and our team is stretched and our equipment is stretched, we won't be streaming this one. But like if you can't make everyone, we can make arrangements to send you a recording or let you check out one of the previous sessions and get an idea.
Yeah, and we do this.
But you got to be here. Like, there's nothing like, even for our worship experiences, there's nothing like being in the room.
Yeah.
I just got to say that. I love our online ministry and that we have that, but there is nothing like being in the room. So don't sacrifice being in the room just because you can watch it online. You won't get the same experience.
Yeah. Also, this Sunday we're actually sending. And you're gonna have to double check me on these numbers. I think I've got these right, but we are sending 66 students to NTS camp. Is that right?
I think that is just students. I don't think that includes the leaders.
And I think there's like 20 leaders.
Yes.
So there's like more than 80 people from Parkway.
2 buses full.
Two big old buses.
It's incredible what God is doing through our young people. You get the opportunity when we're not doing Equip and things on Wednesday nights. You get the opportunity to serve in middle school. I get the opportunity to help with high school. Not every week, but quite a bit. And man, God is just doing some incredible things there. Shout out to John and Austin and their teams. Again, I can't say it enough. We, part of our mission and vision involves every generation. And our next gen department is just killing it.
Well, and I'll tell you what, you're talking to 2 guys that have done that before.
Yeah.
Like, this was our life. Youth ministry was our lives. And I think that's probably for both of us why we gravitate towards student ministry so hard anyways.
It's right? Still in there,
Once you're called to it and you've lived it, it's a hard thing to get away from, right?
Yeah. Well, especially when, and this is, not saying anything bad about Austin or John, but especially when you have some younger guys who are kind of newer to it.
Yeah.
And we've had that experience. We want to mentor them.
Yeah.
We want to help them. And honestly, I think they could do it without us. But it's just a joy and an honor to be able to share the experiences and the challenges and the ups and the downs and the wins and the losses with them and help them better handle those things when they face them.
It's interesting too for me now. So 2 of my kids are now in middle school with Austin. And one, it is an absolute joy to have Austin responsible for discipling, my kids in that pastoral role. And there's very few people I trust to do that, and Austin is one of them. Austin won me over real quick, right?
It doesn't take much.
Austin's just that good a guy, and I don't get to hang out in high school quite as much with John, but man, I mean, I'm looking forward to my kids, working through our next gen ministries here at Parkway. I'll be honest, I'm pretty judgmental about youth pastors having been there, right? Youth pastors, we're a pretty judgmental group, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes good, sometimes bad, right? But I have pretty high standards, right, for how I think youth ministry should be done and some things like that.
It's such a key component of laying the future foundation. So many students when they get out of what most consider next gen ministries as a whole conglomerate. A lot of times we forget about the college age and all, which we're doing a great job there. Our college ministry, I started it almost 3 years ago, I think. It was one of the first things I did here. And then it exploded, and then we broke off a small group, which is now a medium group, almost large group, and then the college ministry. And John is just taking that thing. But, it's such a key component in the future of truly our next generation.
Yeah.
And honestly, the next generation really and truly is the now generation. It's the ones that we need to, not that we're forsaking the older saints and all that, but we have to pour so much more into these young people now, because the world is accessible in their pocket, in their hand all the time. And so we have to combat that by making sure that we are helping them build their life on the rock, on the solid and the firm foundation. So I'm gonna be judgmental. And I'm gonna make sure that my kids are getting what they need. If we jump in the car and we leave church and I say, "What'd you learn about the day?" and the only thing they can say is Jesus, which is a good answer. It's always a correct answer. But if that's all they can say, then I'm gonna need to go talk to somebody.
Yeah, and I think it's so good that we have youth pastors that are not only teaching students that church is a place that you want to be, right? Not some place your parents just force you to be. Because it's a fun, it's a welcoming and inviting environment, right? That's no question. But it's also a place where John and Austin don't shy away from teaching truth.
Oh, no
right?
doubt.
And giving these students opportunities to worship, right? Especially our high school students. Our high school students in our 10:30 service on Sunday morning.
Oh man, if you haven't seen it, you got to see it.
Worship.
Like, in fact, just go watch our 10:30 service online.
Yeah, you're gonna see them.
We get a lot of shots of them worshiping because that's important. And like you said, they're leading the way. And you know, we have some great people in our next gen ministries who's helping with worship. You know, Laura, Austin's wife, really paved the way for that, and they're doing a great job. And I'm so thankful for that because my kids serve on that worship team. They whether in kids ministry tech or on the stage, and then you know Hannah and what she's doing with the middle and the high school worship team. Man, it was so cool this past week. I don't know how we got on this. We should have saved this for NTS, but we're here.
Well, we're going to set it up.
Yeah, you know, so
we're good.
One really cool thing is I was able to run sound for the high school worship team last week, and there were several new people on stage that had moved up from the middle school worship team. And we have several people. If you tune in or you're here on a Sunday when we have our echoes, there's middle and high schoolers up there on stage on Sunday morning, leading the way in worship, hands raised, eyes closed, like just worshiping and not caring what anybody's going to think or say.
And the
That's
cool thing is,
huge.
it'd be easy to look at it and like, oh well, who trained them to do that? Nobody.
Yeah, it's
that's
we're just giving them
of worship.
we're giving them opportunities to worship. And because of what we've set up from kids church all the way through Encore, what we have set up is a freedom to be you and to worship.
Right.
A lot of churches can't say that. A lot of churches, it's shh, be quiet, we're in church. We give our people an opportunity to be who they are. Now, yes, I believe that there's an order to it, but because we train them, even in early childhood, Christine does an amazing job of incorporating worship moments. We're training them. We probably would do it in the nursery too if they knew. But even from early childhood all the way through, we give opportunities for every generation to worship.
And I think that's this is kind of, I'll lead into our topic now, but that's kind of where what kind of started me thinking about where we're going today is, so my oldest is he's in he's going into 8th grade, so this will be his first year at youth camp at NTS, and I've been thinking through kind of. I wanted to have a conversation with him before he goes to kind of set him up for what he's going to experience and what's going to happen. Because if you've ever been to youth camp, if you've ever seen youth camp,
any youth camp,
right? God does amazing things at camp, and he I think there's a couple of reasons which we'll get into, but God always speaks to people at camp. And so I've been thinking through, you know, as a dad, which is still really weird to be kind of on this side of the youth pastor line, right? Looking at youth ministry now as a parent, and then being able as a volunteer and helping with Austin and things is now it's an interesting moment. And so I was thinking, now how do I pastor my son as he's going to camp as his dad now, right? So I was thinking through, so we're going to have a conversation about what to expect and to really be prepared to hear from God, because no matter what's going on in your life, no matter where you go to camp, I mean, God is putting you there, right? To speak to you, right?
Yeah.
So I was thinking through this whole idea of like, how do we hear from God? Because I think, having been a youth pastor for a number of years and been in church for a while, and watching my own kids grow up, and even just following Jesus. I mean, I've been in church my whole life, and the question that's I've always kind of wondered and kind of thought through, and is, how do we hear from God?
Yeah.
Right? Because I think different people hear from God in different ways, and God speaks to us in different ways at different times. But as a follower of Jesus, we want to hear from God, right? You want to not just be kind of out there on an island where, God is just like, God is an academic thing or somebody that we understand to be far off. Like, I want to really hear from God, which one thing is I think that's one thing that we look easily at the next generation, and just like every other generation that's come before us, we look at it and it's like, oh, this could be the generation where the church fails and falls apart. That is false. Yeah. That is not the case. And if you are afraid of what the next generation is going to do, you don't know the next generation.
Yeah. And, I think we're seeing kind of a cycle shift back from the programming side of it to the simplicity of, I just want to know God.
Yeah.
I think we are seeing that where, when I was a youth pastor, it was heavy program. Like, we got to do whatever we can to get them in the door and then just give them a nugget. Yeah. Now, like, they're hungry. Yeah. And even in this dark world that we are in, we are hearing more and more, and now it bugs the snot out of me. We are hearing more and more people quickly give God praise. Now, I don't know if they truly mean that or not. Like, first and foremost, I want to give God honor and glory for letting me win this effing championship. Like, that bugs me. But listen, God's name is being proclaimed. Yeah. And I think our young people are realizing that need for something more than what the world can give them. Like, they've tried a lot over generations. They've tried a lot. Yeah. And they're realizing there's no satisfaction in these things. And so now they're hungry and they're wanting to hear from God. Yeah. And again, I'm just so thankful for not just Next Gen, but for ministry at our church. Yeah. That is not afraid to give people opportunities to hear from God, to experience God in a very real way. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things, like, if you look around the internet, there's this whole idea of deconstructionism, and people are deconstructing their faith. Yeah. Like, there are people that I went to a little Christian school with in Michigan. There are people I graduated with. Like, they seemed to be like real good followers of Jesus that are now deconstructing their faith. There's people all over YouTube, all over all over the internet. They're talking about their experience and deconstructing their faith, and I can't help but wonder. This is just my opinion, just my thought, but I can't help but wonder: is it because of the way they were discipled as students? Like, I mean, so us as youth pastors, maybe we won't take all the blame, but it kind of makes me sit back and question. Like, you talked about programming. I mean, that was it. That was for 20 years. That's how we did a youth ministry. It was heavy programming, and then we'll add Jesus, right? And I think we started to realize that, right? Yeah. And we started to realize we needed to have more discipleship. But I think as a whole, I'll just speak as a whole of youth ministry, it was so much easier to focus on programming. And I think I don't think that's the whole reason, but that I think is part of the reason we're seeing a generation, really people kind of are in our age group that are starting to go through that deconstructionism because it wasn't real to them. Yeah. Like, we didn't teach them how to hear from God.
Yeah. And I think part of it was a lot of for me, my faith growing up was my grandparents' faith.
Yeah.
It was a long time before I had my own faith, before I had my own encounter. I went to church because my grandparents took me to church. I read the Bible because my grandparents encouraged me to read the Bible. It was a while before it was what I desired. It was a while. And, we're seeing this shift here at our church and at other churches. If I hit this mic one more time.
That's only 2. That's pretty good.
We're seeing this shift, and you're going to see these things start to come out over the next year. Thanks to Steffi and thanks to Dustin and thanks to Cassidy, we are starting to shift so much more toward disciples making disciples.
Yeah.
Which is huge, and that's kind of been the gap in Christianity. The gap in church is, and there's nothing wrong with being seeker friendly and having a Sunday morning worship experience that lost people and saved people love to attend. Mm-hmm. But it's got to go deeper than that. You think about when Jesus called his disciples. They left everything. Mm-hmm. But then Jesus just didn't say, well, cool, have fun.
Yeah.
No, they walked together, and he trained them, and he showed them what it was like to not be fisher of fish, but fishers of men.
Yeah.
And that's where we've dropped the ball. We come on, get saved. Woohoo. Yeah. Now you can take this class. Mm-hmm. But then that's it. Or now you should join a small group, and not a whole lot of intentionality behind that. And we're getting back to that.
Yeah.
We're getting back to how the church was meant to be.
And that's coming from 2 guys that are in charge of the production.
Yeah.
Like, we're in charge of the show.
Yeah.
Like, we're in charge of the big draw. Like, that's what it is.
Yep.
Like, we do the lights, the sound, the haze, because you got to have haze, right?
Yeah. More haze, more praise.
That's it. The haze is the Holy Spirit. I'm pretty confident, right?
Yep.
I mean, but that's, I hope you hear the heart behind all of that.
Yeah.
Like, all of that could be gone.
Yeah.
Right. And I think we saw a lot of that, especially in churches during COVID. Like, that goes away.
Yeah.
There's got to be something real.
Bro, I just had this thought, man. You said all of that can be gone. What if you came in on Sunday morning and the power went out? You had this experience and the power went out. Can you still have church?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Will you still have church? If the air is broken in your building, and golly, it's broken right now.
It feels like it's right now, yeah.
If the air is broken in your building,
yeah,
will you still come in the building and sweat and worship? If you can't truly answer that and say, man, if the power's out, we'll still have church. Yeah. We'll sing a cappella. We'll read from the scripture rather than the screen. Listen, I love all those things. Like he said, we're production.
Yeah.
But if you can't say that the show will go on without those things, then I'd say your church is dying.
Yeah.
I know that's a bold statement, but I would say your church is dying.
I mean, you could look at the math and the statistics. Look at the statistics of churches, the average church size across America. I mean, it's been years since I looked at it. It used to be like 70. I don't think it's even that anymore. I think it's below that. But yeah, so we say all that to say this. The core of what people are looking for today is an actual experience from God, and that's kind of where my heart's been, is especially as a dad, is how do I get my kids to really experience God? How do I get them to hear from God? Right? Because I mean, I'm 35. I understand God very differently than I did when I was 13. Right? And so there's a couple things. We're just going to hit on a couple things as we kind of start to close out here.
Man, time has flown.
Well,
sheesh.
This is what happens when it's just you.
Yeah.
But there's a couple ways that we hear from God, and I've never had this experience. I've always wanted this, right? I've never had that audible voice of God, right, saying, "Darren, go do this," right? And I think, at least in my circles, in my world, that seems to be the way that God speaks the least. And I could be wrong, but that's kind of been my experience, and that's probably okay. And even in Scripture, I feel like, in the vast majority of things, it's not that common, even in Scripture.
Yeah.
And God's certainly capable of it.
Oh, no doubt. I haven't. I think I can count 2 times where I truly feel like I have heard God's voice audibly. But man, he shows up in so many different ways. And the issue there often is, it's not that God isn't speaking. It's that we're not listening. Because a lot of times when we're like, God, just give me a sign, and he's given us the sign, it's just not the sign we're looking for. And he's speaking to us. He's just not speaking to us the way that we want him to.
Yeah.
I'm gonna butcher this joke, but
Is it older than dirt?
Probably
Is
so.
it stupid?
I think about this lady who her neighbor just did not believe in God, and she's praying like she's not making ends meet, and she's praying for God to bless her with groceries. She's in her backyard praying, and the neighbor says, "You know what? I'm going to buy her groceries so God can't." And so the neighbor buys the groceries, puts them on the porch. She comes out and she's giving God praise. Yes, thank you, Jesus. You blessed me with groceries. He pops up out the bush. He's like, God didn't bless you with groceries. I gave you them groceries. God, thank you. You blessed me with groceries and you used the devil to do it.
Yeah.
But that's the reality. You know, God speaks to us in so many different ways. It's just so often we're looking in the wrong direction and we're listening for the wrong thing.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of my first thought when I thought about this. We have to, when we hear from God, right, we have to put ourselves in the right position to hear from God, right? Now, that doesn't necessarily mean coming to church, right? Because God speaks to us in a lot of other places. I mean, some of the most impactful moments I've ever had with God have been not in church, right? But you have to put yourself in a position to hear what God wants to say to you. And that can mean a couple different things. But one, that could mean you got to remove some distractions in your life.
Oh, no doubt.
I mean, I got this little square in my pocket that's a 6.7-inch screen that runs my life and makes all this noise. I mean, I got it on my wrist. I keep my AirPods with me all the time. Like, there's always some kind of distraction around me. I got to have music around. There's always something. If I'm in this building right here, there's always something that I need to go adjust or work on or you know mess with. And there's so many distractions in our life that if you can put yourself in a position to hear from God, Jesus did this. Jesus set an example for us in Matthew chapter 4. It's like early on in his ministry, Jesus is going out into the wilderness. He goes out there 40 days by himself, right? Just to commune with God the Father.
Yep.
Right?
We have to do
Jesus. If Jesus needed to do that. Right? Who God incarnate needed to go out and do that. To get away from stuff, to turn off Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff, which is ironic to say as you're watching is probably on Facebook. Right?
Don't turn off yet. 12:45, turn it off.
Yeah, a couple more minutes. But we need to set rhythms in our life to put ourselves in a position where we can hear from God.
Yeah.
Right? If you wake up like 5 minutes before you got to leave to be somewhere and you're rushing out the door, like not even eating breakfast, hopefully you're getting coffee.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you are just kind of rushing through your day and there's no moment for you to position yourself to hear from God, like God is speaking.
Yeah.
And you're missing it. So that's the number one thing. I think when we're trying to hear from God, I think we need to position ourselves. It has to be intentional.
Yes.
Right? Think just schedule wise, you have to schedule a time, right? And a place. Some of us need a place.
Don't find time, make time.
Yeah. My dad, so I'm glad you said that. My dad, one of the most important things he ever said to me was, you have time for what you make time for.
Yep.
And it was so annoying when I was growing up.
But it is so right.
It's the most, and you know what? I say it to my kids all the time, like, oh, I forgot, or I didn't have time to do that. Nah.
Yeah, you know, that reminds me, and I know we've kind of been all over the place, but that reminds me of, I just forgot, David Jeremiah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll never forget, and I think I've shared this on here before, I'll never forget David Jeremiah. He pastored large church, and I think they had 3 or 4 floors. And he said he was leaving out one day to go to his son's baseball game, and this is making time. You have to do the same thing with God. But he was leaving, and this person showed up and said, "Hey, Pastor, I really need you right now." He said, "Listen, jump on the elevator, go up to the 3rd floor. My whole staff is there, but I got to go." "No, Pastor, I really need you." He said, "No, my whole staff is up there. They're well equipped to handle whatever you're needing."
Yeah.
"No, you're my pastor and I need you." He said, No. There's a staff of 14 or 15 people upstairs. There's plenty of pastors here for you, but my son only has one dad, and he's got a baseball game, and I'm going to it right now.
Yeah.
So you can go up there and chat with them, or you can schedule another time to chat with me. But my son needs me.
Yeah.
And man, when I heard him tell that story, game changer for me. really put into perspective. And sometimes I have to catch myself, and I know you do as well. We love our church, and we serve our church with everything that we have. And sometimes family gets sacrificed, and I so often have to check myself, like, no, I got to make time for my family. So I love you guys, but I ain't putting you over my family. I've done that before.
When it comes to our families.
I've done that before. I ain't doing it again.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, in our families, they get it. They know. They've done this long enough. They know. Yeah. Which there's some sacrifice involved.
Our families,
on their parts.
I can speak for me and for you. Our families, we do ministry together, which is a beautiful thing. But don't sacrifice your family, and don't sacrifice your time with God. That's the number one relationship and priority in your life, is that relationship with God. And so you have to position yourself to be able to hear from Him. Yeah. And I'm gonna just say this: He's not going to do anything in public until you've done what you need to do in private. Ooh,
that's good. That's a good one. You must be a pastor. That's a good one. If not, you should be. Yeah. So I mean, we've got all these ways we hear from God, but I think the first thing we've got to do to hear from God is we've got to, like we just said, we got to put ourselves in a position. Sometimes that's physical, sometimes that's just mental. I think the second thing we've got to do is, number one, I think we got to remove some distractions. Yeah. When it comes to putting yourself in a position to hear from God, you got to get some stuff away from you. Yeah. Right. And maybe that's some things you just need to get out of your life totally, or some things you just need to set aside.
Hey, listen, it might even be some people too.
It might be some people. In fact, odds are good it might be some people, right, for some folks listening. The second thing I think we need to do is we need to put ourselves in true pastor fashion. It starts with a P.
Good job.
The second thing we need to do to hear from God is we need to put ourselves in a posture to listen from God. If you look at Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, right before he goes to the cross, right? He's in his position. He's by himself, right? And then he puts himself in a posture of receiving from God by saying this is not my will, but yours, right? So he's not looking for God to say the answer that he wants, right? Yeah. He's not going to God with an agenda and a posture of like, hey, you're a jukebox. I'm gonna say the right things. I'm gonna push this button, and you're gonna give me what I want. Like, God is not a vending machine. God is not a jukebox. God doesn't give you what you want. Yeah. Right? He responds with what you need when we come to Him in a position of prayer. Hey, that's a good one. Yeah. That's a lot of P's. How many P's can I say altogether? But I think we need to set our will aside, and that's what that posture of really maybe even opening your hands. And I'll tell you what, sometimes that helps you to physically open your hands. I know in Sunday school we were taught to do this, but that's because you were children. And you couldn't sit still, and you wanted to smack your friends and all that stuff. I mean, you probably were. I was never like that. No, I was the good kid in church.
I was not.
Yeah, I wasn't either. That's okay. But we need to put ourselves in a posture to receive from God. Yeah. Right? One of my favorite songs that we've been singing a whole lot is Trust in God. Yeah. And that bridge of that song always reminds me of the verse. I have to look it up every time because I can never remember where it is. But the line in the bridge is, I sought the Lord, and He heard, and He answered.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Just to close this out with the third P. We have to get in position. We have to have the right posture. And when we do that, He's promised that He's going to provide. Yeah. He's already promised that He hears our prayers, and He knows our hearts, but He wants to hear our hearts. Yeah. So He's already promised.
Yeah. And I'm just going to read Psalm 34:4, because this is the verse that bridge is based on, that song is based on. And I'll tell you what, if you've ever struggled with anxiety.
Amen, Morgan. And read the word. We have that in our notes. We just didn't get to it.
Yeah. Yeah, we kind of went pastor mode and went on other tangents. That's okay.
Thank you, Morgan, for reeling us back in.
But Psalm 34:4, right? If you've ever struggled with anxiety, which I think so much of the things that we want to hear from God comes from that. Psalm 34:4. We're just going to close with this.
Love it.
I sought the Lord, and He answered me. He delivered me from all my fears.
Amen. Amen.
If that doesn't motivate you this morning, man, I'm not sure what will. It's not morning, it's afternoon.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're watching this.
Hey, I think we got like 1 minute left.
Yeah,
bro.
we're good. Make sure you text Motivate to 540-900-3838. That'll put you in our group. We could use some encouragement every once in a while too. We made it through. We were tired.
Yeah,
this was good.
This energized me. Thank you guys for being active in the chat. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Darren, for leading Midweek Motivation. Man, this is great.
I hope you have a great week and stay motivated.